Thanks to the organisers for the opportunity and privilege to be here with you today. It's much appreciated. I would also like to pay my respect to the traditional custodians of the land where we are today, to the Gundungurra people where my farm is located, to Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander and all Indigenous peoples in the audience today. Thanks go to Mary Bonnet and to Stephen Horn, who's in the audience today from the K2W program. They kindly gave me the first grant for my farm. Thank you. They're also finalists for the Sustainability Awards in the deplorable state of New South Wales. I'd like to thank my land care colleagues as well and the One Health folk that I've worked with over the years. I have a couple of passions to sort of just explain how I got here. I've, oops, nope. Yes, I've had the privilege of working internationally for over 30 years. For much of that time, I've worked with village chickens and their owners. These small flocks of scavenging birds play a small but vital role in livelihood strategies of people around the world, and they're often the only livestock that women have some control over. I came back to Australia in 2012 because I had the feeling that we weren't as food secure as we like to think we are, and really to be able to agitate at a political level you have to be able to vote, even though in my electorate it doesn't feel like I make much difference. I'm in the electorate of Hume, for anybody who knows what that means. And I suspect there's more than one person in this room who really hates sheep. I would like you to reconsider. The problem is not really the sheep, it's how we manage them. So, One Health, great term, but what does it mean? I have some of you will have heard this term, but basically it's a term that's been introduced into the science community to explain, take a systems approach to environmental health. When it was first, When it was first introduced in the early 2000s, it had a strong focus on zoonotic disease that's transmitted from animals to humans, that coincided with bird flu, avian influenza H5N1, and the One Health was really all about the health of us in rich countries being disturbed by the fact that bird flu may become transmissible between humans and therefore endanger our health. So that was the focus of that work, very much a pathogen-oriented focus. It is tricky, isn't it? Okay. So last year, the scientific community decided that One Health, clearly if we're going to take it seriously, you have to look at the drivers, what's behind the emergence of these diseases. So a new definition was developed that looks at a much broader, holistic approach, looking at human health, animal health, the health of ecosystems, and then also look at the need for sectors, disciplines to work together and to address the collective needs for clean water, energy and air, safe and nutritious food, taking action on climate change and contributing to sustainable development. Now, to set some context for talking about One Health farming in Australia. In Australia, really agriculture is all about commodity production and it links very much to the economy. It's about making money. In my opinion, that's a bit unfortunate. None of us could be here today if farmers and fishers had not produced food surplus to their need. None of the variety endeavours of human society that we know today would be possible without those who produce food and those who get food to us here in Kangaroo Point. So it is fairly important, and for the stability moving forward, we have to take food security, and those who produce food, we have to take them seriously. Wow. Right, don't need to dwell on this, But really we know, and we can't say we weren't told. These are 2 Australian documents, one from 2001, one that was from last year and finally released this year, that lets us know how bad the situation is here. So, how do we tackle the separation of farmers and agriculture from environmental health? So you remember I described One Health as the way the scientific community is now describing the interconnectedness of everything. So apologies to our Indigenous communities, because you've kind of understood this for a long time. But you know, we're slow learners, but sometimes we get there. Indigenous peoples understand that people and the environment are totally inseparable, and it is really important that we feel our environment, that we feel part of it, and we also feel that hurt and that damage that does happen. Slowly, increasing numbers of farmers and First Nations people are coming together to care for the land that they both understand is so important, looking at regeneration and rebuilding biodiversity. So an integrated One Health approach really is vital to the food system transformation that even the World Bank says is important, and they use the term regenerative agricultural production. That's quite a change for them. There are other consequences that we don't often think about. We love to talk about how good we are at producing food in Australia, but the fact is we're one of the most malnourished countries in the world. Over 60% of Australians are overweight or obese, and many of us have vitamin and mineral deficiencies. As we have gone with intensive agricultural production, growing bigger things more quickly, what we've seen is a decline in the nutrient profile. Our modern chicken that people love to eat is in fact of a poorer nutritional quality than it was in the 1970s when it was first introduced. Profiles of farm fish are worse than their captive, than their wild-caught cousins. But what we know from work that's coming out now, those who move to regenerative farming practice, we are seeing an improved profile of nutrients, and that's accompanied by improved landscapes. Okay, so now onto the micro, which is the bit that they really wanted me to talk about. My farm. Okay, so I came back to Australia in 2012. 2014, I was helped by family to identify a farm. I was born and raised on a farm. This is 30 minutes from where I grew up. It seemed very rude to come back to Australia and to say, I think you have a food security problem. So by trying, I'm able to confirm that it's now harder to farm than ever in Australia, particularly if you're a family farmer. So it's a small farm by Australian standards, and for those of you who know Mick, that's him up there putting in the nest box, and one part of the area that I got the first grant from K2W for. So thanks very much to K2W, and a big thanks to German backpackers, who I have to say are just fabulous. The trees and shrubs that they planted are fabulous, and they did really well, and they came through the worst drought in living memory. They did excellently, and they got one drink all the way through that period. Really something. The German backpackers, German backpackers did just fine, and I do send them fine. So here we are. So they'd be welcome back. I've got to tell you, the last 800 trees I planted myself. Labour shortages are a problem on farms in Australia. So this is just a quick shot of showing how the gully that was fenced off is regenerating, and also improvement to revegetation. My goodness, I don't know why I get it right sometimes. And not next. No. Right. So, the interconnectedness of everything. This tries to put some picture to where it is farmers have to find themselves when they're producing food and getting it to people. We have various government agencies. We have the movement of nutrient flows across water, soil, plants, animals to people. and we have the movement of microbes. So I've used microbes because microbes are essential to our world, and when we talk about pathogens, they're just, from our perspective, a microbe in the wrong place. We must have skipped one. Okay, now I see. Anyway, this is now showing Toledo's contribution to One Health. So we've got increased soil organic carbon, improved microbial activity. For any of you know the Soil Your Undies program, that's after two months being buried in one of my paddocks there and seeing the cotton undies disappear. And improved water retention. Oh, gosh. Right, improve, yeah, that's going to make it easier. Right, all through. Okay, so bottom left, improved water quality. So the quality of the dams has improved incredibly, which is good for the waterfowl, also good for the sheep. Got increased numbers of Indigenous trees and shrubs to increase perennial pastures. And during the drought, and particularly during these times of lush growth, the sheep really like the Indigenous pastures. They're much higher in protein, and many of them are perennial and so much more enduring. We've got improved wild animal diversity, an increasing problem with ferals, I just add, because of the overflow from the fires, increased wild bird diversity, and improved sheep welfare. So the quality of the pasture, but also the shelter that they have from both extremes of heat and cold and the increasing wind. We have engaging, and I'm learning about the Indigenous heritage where the farm is, improved and increased sustainable fibre production, and that's an enduring fibre that it also does lock up carbon for some time, and increased nutritious food, so both the meat and the offal. So the nice thing about wool sheep is they get to have a longer life, but they are very nutritious at the end of that life, amongst the most nutritious terrestrial animal source food. Right. So, okay, just if anybody wants to follow up and you just can't help yourselves. Right. Just a couple of take-home points is that family farmers are dying in Australia. They are declining in numbers, and as we heard from, was it Auntie Kath yesterday? Yeah. Yes. You develop that link with the land, the understanding of the land, but smaller family farmers are greatly decreasing in numbers. So you lose that connectivity with the land, you lose that commitment to value your society. As it moves into more corporate hands, they just look at the bottom line at the end of the financial year. We really need to move to circular and sustainable bioeconomies. It's not having much of a discussion here in Australia, but it is a big topic internationally, and we should be part of the discussion. We need to help people choose how they choose their food, and QR codes can help you to do that. Where did it come from? What's the nutrient profile? What's happening to soil erosion? What's happening to animal welfare, where that food is coming from? All of this is possible if we use technology. And we have to transform health systems, both human health and environmental health. For human health, without food, you don't need doctors because you're already dead. So you've got to get your priorities right, and you have to make sure that farmers are rewarded so that they can be the stewards they want to be with their land. Thank you very much.